Welcome to another Founder Wisdom podcast. We have Brian Shea with us. Brian is a principal at Lucrum Partners, all about strategy alignment. Also has this company called Lemonade, co-founder and CEO at that since a year. Networking is dead. I do
Yeah.
agree with that, Brian. Brief intro about yourself and tell us a bit more about Lemonade.
Yeah, sure. Charles, thanks for having me today. So yeah, I wear two hats. And my lemonade hat is one that has a really intentional path. I, with our other co-founders, were executive paying members of other communities. And two things that we found were a problem. They were expensive and they were extremely hard to self-navigate. And we said, there's got to be a better way rather than just getting onto another Zoom meeting and paying all these big, membership fees. And so in a conversation as disgruntled members of another platform, the comment came up and said, why don't we just go across the street and open our own lemonade stand? And then we
Right.
paused and then came back to it. And here we are. So we are in beta testing right now with the industry's premier AI matching executive platform. And we go live in a few weeks.
And how is your lemonade stand better, right? Because
Mm.
us founders, we need naivete to start something. Because most of the time when we start something, we're not better, but then we get to learn about their customers and adapt the product to the market. So yeah, what's your thesis? How is it better?
Yeah. So we changed rather than say, how do we just get a bunch of strangers to go and sit in a room for an overpriced breakfast for a lot of money per year? Or how do we get a bunch of strangers to all go onto a Zoom meeting and stare at those little boxes at the end of a day of staring at little boxes? We thought that there could be a more intentional way of matching executives. And so our North Star with Lemonade is our goal and objective is to create 1 million executive to executive conversations that create $1 billion in deals by 2030. So we're intentional in the way that we design the platform to connect like-minded members with other like-minded members. So the way that our platform works, Charles, is you don't get introduced to random people. Have you ever been to a conference or a convention or a networking event where you walked in and you just looked at a sea of people and said, geez, now what do I do?
Yeah, 10
We
years
fixed all
ago,
that.
and I never ever did it after again.
Right. It just has that, you just had that response of, are you kidding me? Why am I here? Am I going to get any value? Am I going to be able to give any value? Who are all of these people? So we get all of that and we take all of that out of this messy middle of executive to executive networking. Executives are busy. They don't have time for this sort of randomness, and they're looking for intentionality in their introductions to other like-minded executives, and that's what we solve for.
Have you tried Bordy?
Yeah.
Is Bordy like probably one of the best vision when it comes to connecting people and product, not just a vision, right? Like they've deployed it. Like what have you got in lessons from them?
Yeah. So we think that they're also on the right path versus the, I don't know, we'll call them the legacy. The
Like
legacy.
BNI. BNI is
Oh,
quite legacy, isn't it?
oh my. Yeah. You can get our connections together on a quick call and say, okay, ready, let's do name association. And you say LinkedIn and they're like noisy, spammy, busy. All right. And then you go through all of the other traditional executive networks. And what you typically hear is expensive, hard to navigate, no ROI. What I thought I was getting is not what I'm getting. And so it's really a bifurcation of that old school of spend a lot of money and then just show up either in a room or on a Zoom call and good luck, or the new frontier, which Lemonade is really excited to be part of.
Let's talk about, because I hate the word networking, but I
Mm,
love networks and I love ecosystems. I think they're exponential. I love partnerships, right? Like that's
yeah.
one of the main hat I'm wearing for my multiple companies this year. Let's start with this podcast. I think this podcast is great to get to learn more about people, right? Like it is, in my opinion, the lowest hanging fruit in terms of networking. Would you agree with that?
I do. Yeah.
And the back end of this podcast back then, that's where I failed, and I need your advice, I guess, is the mastermind part of it, right? Like I had this mastermind called level96.com. We rebranded to point1founders.com. I'm still not sure where that would fit in my ecosystem, but it's weekly calls with a bunch of highly qualified CEOs and founders. I've brought this concept to life, but it was free, right? I guess
Mm.
free was a problem. Low financial accountability is a problem because you're filtering people at the end of the day. I think that
Yeah.
was one problem. The second thing that you mentioned, like on Zoom calls, I think these were valuable, but they were lacking a bit of structures. Like, hey, what are your problems this week? What are your victories, right? Share that with the group. I don't want to do physical too much because it's not scalable, but
Mhm.
yeah, my question is like, how do you make a thriving and burgeoning ecosystem? I have some other concepts I want to share with you, but let's start with that one. How would you make like a purely online mastermind work, and how would you make it profitable and have all sides, all parties win?
Yeah, I love the question, and it sounds like you've been eavesdropping on some of the product development and product roadmap work that we've done at Lemonade. So when we think about masterminds, you look at the mastermind marketplace, right? And how much time, money, and attention those marketplaces command, right? People that actually fly to a destination and see really smart people on stage for an hour or two. What we've built into Lemonade is we actually have a mastermind program, and we bring in different thought leaders specifically geared towards creating a smarter leader who has all of these new challenges in their role today. Charles, you can. One of the catchphrases we used was, the greater you grow through your career, right, the lonelier it gets, right? Your community starts shrinking as you move up your executive ladder. And so with this mastermind series, or the mastermind marketplace does at Lemonade, is it just brings these voices in that bring a perspective. It's a perspective to a member. And members at Lemonade can say, I don't want to talk to Brian, but I do want to talk to Charles because I really like the value that Charles is bringing around the topic. And so they can self-select to go and sit in on one of your mastermind series that we host on the platform. So what we've created is not a one and done or single lane of kind of topic or subject matter content, but rather it's a marketplace of masterminds, because at any given time, any executive can be saying, today I need this and tomorrow I might need that. And we want to be able to be there for our members to know that we're a resource that they can go and learn, and they can build out their networks with our masterminds. So that's a little bit about how we think about marketplaces. Is it's a marketplace of shared ideas.
Hmm. Couple of other concepts on that line, because private dinners are cool. I guess you need to make them centric, right? Like
Mm.
in New York or SF, for example, and highly vet the members. And who would say no to, I don't know, spending a day in a room of a Michelin restaurant, masterminding about stuff, getting fancy food and great environment with views, specifically personally. But yeah, it's a lot of cost to bring everyone in a room. Another way I found of cracking community, I run like a pod buyer closers movement, which is to have people actually, they get my pod buyer system for free, which is like doing their podcasts as a service, but they also need to close for my services. So where I'm getting at with this is that I'm building a community of other founders, successful founders, and I'm getting them paid. I guess that's the main excuse, to get them in a
Mm.
room once a week. Plus, I also vet them, right? They're all founders. They're all successful in some regards. Isn't getting them paid like the best hack to building like an actual thriving community?
Yeah, I think so. I think there's the easy answer is yes, right? Um, looking at it looking at it through the lens of the content provider. Of course, the content provider is looking for monetize value in some form or fashion. We take a slightly different perspective, and we take our point of view through the eyes of a member, and where do we drive value for a member, and what becomes valuable for a member. And so our members' engagement with our mastermind community, they may go to an open session that may be just part of their normal or nominal membership at Lemonade, and go see Charles. But what this does by having Charles as part of the ecosystem at Lemonade is this allows members to connect directly with you, where they can come to you, Charles, and say, that session you did, can you come to my company and do that? Can you come and do that within my local regional marketplace, et cetera? If we can help bridge those connections, again, we're about executive connections at Lemonade. If we can make that connection and help build that bridge, connecting you with a member and a member to you to help drive member value, then to us, that's all part of our ecosystem of being able to share knowledge. So, our different practitioners that we have, that are part of our ecosystem, they all have their own businesses, and we want to promote it, but we don't want to hustle people. And that's, this is not a solicitation platform as much as it is a resource platform.
What's the underlying technology, the Boardy-like technology, to know if two members are synergistic? I'd be intrigued to try to build my own Boardy, right? It's like, hey, meet this guy because this is the opportunity, right? And the AI would scrape pretty much everything and know that this would be the right thing for that person. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. So the information that gets shared when a new member onboards with us at Lemonade is we take them through an onboarding to identify what's that inherent skill set, what's their historical bag of learnings, and we do that through a series of onboarding question and answers, which are both direct with a member, and then we've got some agentic agents that we're about to stand up, which will make it much more conversational. But what we really want to know is, okay, I don't need to go to your LinkedIn and go, okay, here's Charles, here's where he lives, here's his company. Okay, there's not a lot of value in that when you think about the connecting of members. Where the connection and the value comes in is, tell me the stories, Charles. Like, what's the bag of stuff that you learned over your career? And what are the missing elements in that bag that you want to seek? And so we bring those data sets together, and our AI engine says, well, if this is what Charles has to give, and this is what Charles is looking to get, let's go find other like members that have a similar give and get basket. And then we bring those two members together in a curated introduction. You don't have to take the meeting. You can look at the entire profile, and you can look at the AI generated summary as to why you got connected with Brian. And if you don't think there's a there, that's cool. You bounce, you move on, and you go to your next connection. But we're not forcing connections. We want to be able to create a connection and then give you enough context around why you were connected to this other member, so you could say, that's cool. That's exactly what I'm looking for. Let me go ahead and book a meeting.
Right. How do you filter your member is probably like a question I should have started with. What's your process with that?
Yeah, so the marketplace that we serve, Charles, is actually fairly wide. It's Fortune 1000 executives, and the other part of our member profile, our paying member profile, are high growth executives, and those are typically executives that were part of the machine, previously, that have left. They're either in a startup, they're an incubator, they're working with private equity funded. But that's the level of caliber and experience that our members have. And so the matching between those members is really intentional, that we are able to drive the right kind of elevated executive value and connect them with the right elevated executive connections.
Interesting. What does a mastermind look like in terms of structure, right? Like, do you have a structure to make it fun? Is it an hour?
No, we don't do anything fun, Charles. We don't. Yeah, it is. Yeah. So
it's all boring.
Yeah, it's all boring, right? Everybody sit down for our lecture. Yeah. So our masterminds, one of the things that I'm always in awe of, they have incredibly vibrant personalities and backgrounds. And many of our masterminds are multi experts in a singular session. And it's not just the information that they give, but watching the dynamics of how they sort of spar with each other around current topics that are challenging to executives today. It's I won't go as far as to say it feels like an MMA match sometimes, but it's highly entertaining because this is just about, let's just riff. I mean, we have a topic at hand where executives are saying this is the thing that we're struggling with, and a lot of stuff is around governance and a lot of the shifts and changes that are happening above them in their organizations. And it takes a different mindset and a different EQ and IQ to kind of muscle through this stuff. So having these experts, and they're all individually brilliant, to be able to bring different perspectives against each other, as well as different perspectives for the attendees. It's educational and can be very, very entertaining.
Yeah, well, disagreeing on something, having thoughtful disagreements, thoughtful being the keywords here, is how I grow neurons, right? The question is, how do you make sure that they feel at ease disagreeing with one another? How do you create the proper environment for people to trust each other enough to disagree on some points and have a thoughtful disagreement, right? Because we know that most consumers, most citizens nowadays are incapable of having calm and analytical arguments.
Yes.
So yeah, what do you have to say on that?
So the community of masterminds that we have, we do pre-calls with them on the particular topics. That helps do it helps solve for a couple things. Number one, it grounds everybody in the topic and directionally where the session should be led. And we've got facilitators that drive those. But the second part of it is getting each of the masterminds, and sometimes it could be just 2 or 3. We've had them as big as 6 on a panel, where we just do a round robin, and it's just like, who are you? How do you think about this? What's the predictable, what's the non-predictable response to these kinds of questions? And so we kind of do a dry run many times with the masterminds to get them to sort of start building chemistry with each other, while sort of adding in on where we want to take the particular topic discussion. So that's intentional, so that we do a couple of things. Number one, we give all of our panelists, all of our experts, breathing room in these sessions. Nobody gets boxed out, and they have a point of view, or at least an opening perspective of, here's the lane that Charles comes in, and here's the lane that Brian comes in, and so they come in warmed up into the room. Is probably the easiest way of saying that.
What's the price of the membership, and how did you approach pricing? What was the logic behind it?
Yeah. So when we looked at the marketplace and said, okay, so for executives to join some of the big house names, big brand names, a lot of those memberships are $8,000, $12,000, $15,000, $20,000 a year to be part of those communities, to show up for bad breakfast once a quarter in a big meeting room at some country club. You know the drill, right? So our launching price, and I'm just looking at the date here of February 18th, our launch price starting in March for the first tranche of members that we bring in, we're launching at $12.95 for the year, just about $100 a month.
That's pretty lean.
We won't be there forever, I can tell you that.
Right. What's your go-to-market system? What do you use to get in touch with all these people? Cold email and LinkedIn outreach? How do you go with that as a GTM guy?
Yeah. So as a GTM guy, what what we knew we had to do and will continue to do is tell a story, right? This is a story of compare and contrast. It's the foil of what Lemonade's doing versus the status quo, or what most people are used to. So we tell our stories. We tell our stories through member videos. We tell our stories through open houses. We tell our stories through one-on-one. Come talk to me. Come talk to one of the other founders. Our intentionality too around the way that we've been funding. In late 2025, we opened a YC round of funding for Lemonade, and we're continuing it here in 2026 with the intention of, we weren't looking for one or two big investors to come in. We were looking for lots of smaller investors to come in, make an investment in Lemonade, and come to the table. Because the more people, these executive peers that can tell the story about, dang, it's finally different. Dang, it's finally not the old thing that we were involved in before. That helps with the reverberation of the benefits. So storytelling is critically important. We're about to announce our new CMO hiring this week. I can't let it out yet because we haven't onboarded him yet, but his perspective aligns to, we just need to be great storytellers, because the story tells the member value story, and it's bringing that member experience to the forefront.
There you go. Well, Brian, thanks for being on. Where can people find out more about you and your company?
Yeah, Charles, thank you very much for taking the time today and interest in Brian at lemonadeglobal.com. Reach out to me. You can go to our LinkedIn page, follow us at on our Lemonade Global LinkedIn page. You'll see lots of conversations happening in there with members. But yeah, come check me out, Brian at lemonadeglobal.com, or info@lemonadeglobal.com, and our website is lemonadeglobal.com.
That was Brian and Charles.